This is Rachel Marshall, and I am on a mission to help you as a business owner keep more of your money. Now, let me be really clear and straightforward with you. I simply don't believe the financial industry has done a very good job of helping you to create cash flow, be in control of your money, and create financial freedom. So we are here to change that. Now, what I know about you is that you went into business to serve the world and to be in control of your life. And I'm going to help you do that by finding all the areas that money's flowing out of your control and help you strategize ways to get more money flowing back into your control so that you have more to retain and use during your lifetime and more to pass on to future generations. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and talk about you for a minute. So what I know about you is that you want to live this meaningful and purposeful and intentional life today. And you want this ability to have confidence and peace of mind, knowing that your future is secure and certain as well, and that you'll have that meaningful life continue on through the rest of your days. What you're not interested in is having to trade off or have this decision between living well today or hopefully living well in the future. You want both. And so I know that money has not answered this question for you, because when we talk with people, we realize that having more money usually does not mean that you're any closer to achieving that financial freedom or that confidence for the future. You're still plagued with these questions of, do I pay off the mortgage, or do I save for my kids' college, or do I save for retirement, or do I invest my money? And if I invest, how do I know I'm investing with somebody who's responsible and who's trustworthy? And how do I know I'm not going to lose money? How do I know it's going to be there for me? How do I know when to put money back into my business? And as you're conscientiously making these decisions and trying to make the best choices for you, you need to have confidence that your decisions are supporting the life that you are choosing. So now, while I don't really enjoy being the bearer of bad news, I'll be the first to tell you that the reason you're frustrated is that almost everything you've been led to believe about money is a lie. So here's the typical money conversation. We're looking at how much you need in future income in order to carry on your life, and how much you can save today in order to make that happen, and what your risk tolerance is in terms of what types of investments you choose with your asset allocation on your path to retirement planning. And really, this is all wrapped into creating this nest egg that is large enough for you to drain off the interest and live off into the sunset through the rest of your life and not have your money run out. So there, first of all, are so many holes in this line of reasoning and logic that it's simply bound to fail. The second thing is, every successful person that we see and follow, we realize that they have not planned this way. They're thinking differently about money. So let's break this down. So the first concern is that there is no way for you to know exactly how much money you need in the future in order to live the life that you want. So we need to at least account for inflation. It's been on average of 3% per year. If we carry that into the future, what feels like $100,000 per year lifestyle today would require $250,000 just to be an equivalent lifestyle 30 years from now. And it continues to increase the amount of money that you need in order to have that same lifestyle as you go further into the future. So inflation alone makes it very difficult to project, but we also need to look at, what about your lifestyle choices? You're probably going to want to go on those vacations that you didn't go on during your accumulation years. So you might want a higher standard of living. What if you live longer than the average age predictions? What if you live well past your 100th birthday, which is very possible and likely? What if your medical costs are higher than you can anticipate now due to nothing that you're choosing, but maybe just due to the medical industry itself? What if you are now financially responsible for your parents in those later years, and they're dependent on you to provide for them? These factors make it completely unreasonable to even begin to state how much money you think you'll need in the future. So now if we could actually get past all of those concerns about getting that future income amount that we need, you'd never be able to save enough money to make it all work out in the first place. So let's go ahead and take a little closer look at a financial example so that we can see how these numbers play out. So for somebody who's 40 years old, they have 25 more years until they hit 65. They plan to retire at that point. And they're making $60,000 a year right now, so they want to be able to continue on that $60,000 per year lifestyle in the future. Now, we have to also assume a few unknown variables and plug those in so that we can have some solid numbers to work around. So we're going to assume inflation of 3% per year. We're also going to assume their life expectancy is age 95. We are also going to assume that they could get 6% rate of return year in and year out every single year on their money that they're growing. And we're going to use conventional financial wisdom that says you can withdraw 3% from that nest egg during retirement in order to make sure we don't run out of money before their life expectancy. So we plug in all of these variables, and I want to let you know as well, this person at this point is saving $10,000 per year, which is a considerable chunk of that $60,000 they're making, and they've already accumulated $100,000. Will they stack up? Will they make it work? Let's find out. So we fast forward 25 years, they're now 65, their nest egg is $1 million. They feel like they've made it. Now they're retiring. How long is this money going to last? Well, the sad truth is it's going to run out at 73. That's not what we expected. We still have about 22 more years that we want to live until that 95 life expectancy. So if we want to make it work out, how much do they need to save in order to make their money actually work out for them? They would need to save just shy of everything they're making. They're making $60,000 a year. They would need to save $59,585 per year in order to get to a nest egg of $3.8 million, in order to then drain off that 3% and make the $60,000 per year withdrawal last until age 95. There's no way. Who is going to be able to save all of their money? Talk about delaying gratification. So if we are saving every penny we make just so that the future can be sure, what kind of a way to live is that? There's no way to make the accumulation model work, where you accumulate money today, you leave it sitting stagnant, just earning a rate of return, and you hope to live by draining that tank in the future. It simply does not work. So the next question is, where do I save my money so that it's there for me when I want to start taking it out of the account? And if you invest in retirement plans like you're typically told, you cannot predict how much will end up in that account. So when you put your money into retirement plans, within the retirement plan is a basket of stocks and bonds held in a mutual fund. And so in order to look at what our performance of our particular plan will do, we need to understand what the stock market is doing as a whole. So on average, over the last 86 years, since 1929, the stock market, if we look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, has performed about 6.66%. So over the long haul, we see the stock market generally trends upwards. However, this is a little bit misleading because it really matters when you enter and when you exit. Now, you and I both know that we've seen some spectacular gains in the stock market, and they generate all of this hype, but we've also seen those devastating bottom dropping out losses that just turn your world upside down. And because of that, we can't really predict what's going to happen in the future. And if you just so happen to have your retirement date in a year that the stock market is down, you're in a position where you have no room for recovery. Now, when you are putting your money at risk, you're in a position where you're speculating. You are gambling with what you think is going to happen in the future. And this is very different than compounding your money. So you may be led to believe that if you save money in a retirement plan, that you are saving and compounding interest. However, you could have gains and losses, And it's not the same thing as having a fixed guaranteed rate of return every single year. Because when you compound interest, you have that beautiful compound interest curve that curves upwards in this exponential growth. And it's very easy to predict what's going to happen next because it's always linear or parabolic, I guess is the word for that. So when you look at the stock market, though, the truth is average rates of return are not your actual rate of return. So when we look historically at a 6% average, that does not mean that your each year return going forward will be 6%. So I want to illustrate something here. If you had an account with $100,000 in that account, and say you lost 50% of your money in 1 year, that account drains down to $50,000. The following year, say you had 100% gain. Now what are we back to? We're back to $100,000. So if we average those 2 years, we had 50,000 negative plus 100,000. So just do the math. Negative 50 plus 100, we're at 50. Divide that by the 2 years, we're at 25% rate of return over those 2 years. But you didn't increase your money, you just ended up with what you started at, $100,000. Your actual rate of return was 0. So what happens is we need to understand what our actual returns are because average is not a reality and it never really plays out for your money that way. And it takes a much higher gain in order to recover from a loss. The other thing is that most retirement plans are tax deferred. These are qualified plans, things like 401ks, 403bs, and IRAs. Now, these attempt to defer a tax, so you're not paying the tax today. You do end up paying that tax in the future. Now, we do not know the future tax environment. We know that most people would say taxes are probably going up. So if you stayed in the same tax bracket you are today, over time, the government may decide to change the tax structure and you may find yourself in a higher tax bracket. Or you may have higher income and be in a higher tax bracket that way as well. So when somebody finds that they have let's say $1 million in their retirement account, if they land in a 30% tax bracket, they need to recognize that looking at that dollar figure is misleading. The $1 million does not belong to them. They only own $700,000, and $300,000 belongs to the government, who lays claim to that tax-deferred account. So the last thing I want to point out is that when you put your money at risk and you do not have guarantees of growth, but you have possibility for loss, there's a possibility that you could lose all of your money. So in no way are you able to plan because no one can predict the performance of the stock market going forward. If you reached a magic number, maybe it was 6 million, maybe 10 million, that felt to some degree of certainty would give you an income stream that you wanted based on your life expectancy, based on an average rate of return, based on how much you can withdraw from that account, based on inflation, you still would not have security. Because any time that you put money into an account somewhere, and at some point you stop the input and you expect to be able to maintain and retain that principal until the end of your life without running out of money, it's the definition of insolvency. Nobody would make that kind of a decision in their business. You know that cash flow is the only way for you to have security for next week and next month, and to know that your business is still going to be in operation next year and 10 years from now. So no matter how much money you get to, if you never have any additional input, you will always fear running out because there's so many unknowns in the equation that it cannot bring you to that point of financial freedom and certainty that you're looking for. So before moving on from here, I want to discuss lastly what I really see as the final nail in the coffin for this whole typical way of thinking about money, and that is the idea of retirement itself. Now, to retire literally means to remove from use. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't want to be removed from use, especially at some arbitrary age that society thinks that I'm no longer useful. At that point in my life, I've probably accumulated more knowledge and wisdom and learning and experience to serve more powerfully and contribute more profoundly. Now, when we look back at when retirement began, it was over 130 years ago in Germany in 1883. And people who stopped working at age 65 would receive a government pension. Now, at that time, life expectancy was not even 65 years old, and so very few people were living past that age and actually receiving retirement pensions. Fast forward now to the 21st century, life expectancy is much longer, and people are living well into their 90s and even past 100. And so now we're looking at this date of being 65 never having changed during those 130 years where our life expectancy has tremendously increased. And now we're looking at working, if we start work at age 20 through age 65, that's 45 working years, to have 30 plus retirement years. It's an unbalanced and unsustainable model that doesn't work. So when we remove the blinders, we start to realize that the financial institutions are really sitting across the chessboard from us, and they have been all along, we just couldn't see it. So as we're told to follow the rules with our money, we have to recognize that there is another player in the game, and that they're benefiting as we follow the rules. So as we put away as much money as possible, we do that as often as possible. We keep our money put away as long as possible. We take out as little as possible. And we take on risk with our money so that we can get some return. There's somebody receiving as much money as possible, as often as possible, keeping it as long as possible, giving back as little as possible. And they're also taking very little risk so that they can get the guarantees. It really comes down to cash flow and control. And as we begin to see clearly, we can see through the sales and marketing, really think independently, and avoid being taken advantage of. So we want to be in control of our resources and receiving cash flow, because somebody's receiving cash flow in every financial transaction. And every time you give up money, somebody else is receiving that money as cash flow. And every time you give over the control of your money, you're also giving over control and stewardship and the ability to utilize that money to create more cash flow. So the bank is the one benefiting as you follow all the rules. Now, let me tell you, there is hope though, because financially successful and wealthy people are rigging the game in their favor. And instead of being a customer of the bank, they're following the rules of the bank. So let's go ahead and see what they're doing and model. So to work towards financial freedom, you need cash flow. Instead of focusing on net worth and accumulating a certain dollar amount, we need to focus on how you generate streams of income that continually come into your house of wealth, so that you'd never have to worry about this running out. So this perpetual incoming money stream. Now, conceptually, that's easier said than done. How do you get that perpetual money stream? Well, financial freedom is when you have income from your assets that exceeds your expenses, and you're no longer dependent on just income from a job or a paycheck as a W-2 employee. You now have some asset that is generating income to you on a regular basis. When you have that cash flow, you then have more options. You can do more things with that money. You can use cash flow to create more cash flow. You could take $1,000 a month of cash flow and turn that into $2,000 a month of cash flow if you put that into real estate, or maybe invested that back into your business. But the point is, you want to have income coming from assets. Robert Kiyosaki says that's the way to break out of the rat race and move into financial freedom. So creating cash flow, definitely not something you're hearing on the street every day. So how do you create cash flow? It's actually very simple. Dollars are a result of value creation. That simply means that when there is an exchange of money, it is because value was provided. Think about the last time that you paid someone. Maybe it was at the grocery store or Target, or maybe it was paying somebody to mow your lawn. When you handed over willingly your money, it was to certify that you had received something that you valued from that person. Now, if you want to have more cash flow flowing into your life, you need to be providing more value. This could be through your job. It could be through your business. It could be just through your personal life. But as you provide value, dollars are a result of that exchange. Now, how do you create more cash flow? You simply provide more value. That could either mean serving one person more powerfully and profoundly, or it could also mean serving more people. This brings me to a very important point, and that is that you personally are your own greatest investment, because every time you invest in your own ability to serve more greatly, you increase your capacity for compensation. So if I invest in my ability to communicate or to coach or to understand the financial context to serve someone, I'm increasing my capacity to serve. And likewise, as you increase your capacity to serve, you now are capable of receiving more compensation. So you are your own greatest investment. The second greatest investment is in your business, where you are having that transaction happen of the value that you're serving other people with. It's also something that you know and you control. So rather than putting your money into financial products that you neither know or control, invest in your ability to provide more value. Now, it's very easy to see when you look through the eyes of abundance that dollars just are limitless. There is no limit to the amount of value you can serve the world with. And that's why a strict focus and concentration on money will always leave someone poor and empty-handed, because really the key to wealth is in serving at a greater level. Rather than accumulating dollars for the sake of money, we want to accelerate wealth through cash flow. And we do this through a cash flow creation system. The reason to have a system is that you need a process and a system of rules in your financial life to guide your cash flow decisions and your cash flow management to make sure that you're always accelerating wealth. We talked earlier about providing value. All of your assets that produce cash flow are assets that are providing value to somebody or someone else. So as you have income from your assets that exceeds your expenses, you're serving people through those assets. Now, how do you first have the investable income in order to purchase or own cash flowing assets? You need to have primed the pump in terms of having an opportunity fund that's ready to deploy, meaning that you have liquid money available for you to use, not money that's tied up somewhere in some retirement account that you can't even get to without a penalty, but money in your ownership that you control and that you can use. Now, in order to get that money into an opportunity fund in the first place, you need to have cash flow today. You need to have a surplus between your income and your expenses so that you have extra money that you can direct to that opportunity fund. When we really look at the full cash flow creation system, you first want to have the mindset of abundance. On top of that, we're building this layer where you're tracking your money and you have an awareness of your cash flow. You also are building an emergency fund to handle any expenses that may suddenly arise. And you're in a position that you're plugging the money leaks and you're being as efficient as you can with all of your dollars. On top of that level, we're building a protection component. Now, this is making sure that you have all of your insurance and legal protection in place so that you can make sure the wealth that you've created can't be taken away from you and the bucket can't be tipped over. You're also building that opportunity fund to invest in cash flowing assets, which then generate cash flow back into your circle of wealth. Now, the reason that people get so stuck financially and they feel like they're not able to create cash flow is because they're doing what they feel is the right thing for all of the right reasons, but which actually turns out to be the wrong thing. Now, there's such an overemphasis on paying off debt and on saving for retirement, which is actually investing, as we found out earlier. But both of those things actually tend to put more cash flow and control in the hands of somebody other than you. So think about this. The faster you pay off your house, even if your goal is to have less interest leave your hands and be given to the mortgage company, the faster you pay off your house, the more cash flow you have given over to the mortgage company and the less you have to work with on a monthly basis. The faster you work to pay off debt, if the only reason is to be out of debt, the more cash flow and control of your money you're giving over to a bank or financial institution. So what I'm not saying is that we should be in debt or should be in debt for a long period of time. What I am saying is the number one priority beyond investing in yourself and your ability to create value is to be saving money. As you're saving in a place that you can control that capital, you're increasing your net investable income. Now, when you have an abundance of savings, this opportunity fund that's ready to invest in cash flowing assets, you look at the world differently. You see opportunities where you might have just seen problems before, because now you're looking for a way to serve and make the world a better place, and you find ways to use your capital for cash flowing investments. It's because we believe that you are the best person to be in control of your life and your money, that we are passionate about helping you get more of your money flowing into your control. We want to help you see past the limitations of everything that you've been told about money so that you can remove those blind spots and really think differently about creating cash flow, being in control of your money, and then reaching and achieving financial freedom. You know, your amazing life is too important and too valuable to you and the rest of the world to risk not being lived to the fullest. It's time that you find the hidden losses that are sabotaging your wealth creation. Now, we don't work with just anyone because we have found that we can create the most value for business owners and entrepreneurs who inspire us with the life that they're creating. The ideal financial fit is somebody who is past the startup phase in their business. You're creating revenue. You have a spouse and kids that you love. You're wanting to create this epic and amazing life, and you're making conscientious and purposeful and planful decisions surrounding your life and your money. So now, if this is you and you want to find more money to flow back into your control, I would love to invite you into a consultation. Now, we believe in serving and giving value first. And the way that we want to serve you is help increase your confidence, your clarity, and your competence surrounding your financial decision making. So in an initial consultation, we want to find out what's important to you and help you find more money that can flow back into your control so you can live the life of your dreams. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much and have an amazing day.